Welcome to the Pedestrian Safety Training Module. This module will cover the following topics: Overview, Mobile Equipment Safety Guidelines, Forklift Driver Safety Guidelines, and Pedestrian Safety Guidelines. As in normal life, the greatest challenge to pedestrian safety in the commercial workplace is to avoid collision with mobile equipment. There are several factors in the commercial environment which increase the risk to pedestrians. In a warehouse or manufacturing workplace, people and mobile equipment work in close proximity to one another, where the roadways and walkways are not always clearly defined, or even separate. Mobile equipment, especially forklifts, are highly maneuverable and can suddenly be where a pedestrian might not expect them to be. The operators of mobile equipment have concerns such as impeded vision, load carrying, and restricted maneuvering space that a typical automobile driver does not have to deal with. Two parties must be at fault to cause a collision and injury. The most important factor in avoiding pedestrian injury is education of both the pedestrian and mobile equipment operator. Once trained, both pedestrian and driver must remember and practice the concepts discussed here. While many of the points below apply to all types of mobile equipment, they apply most directly to forklift trucks. Forklifts pose a risk to pedestrian safety by virtue of the large numbers of them in use and the fact that they are often in the proximity of foot traffic. This means that both the forklift and the behavior of the forklift operator is an important part of the pedestrian safety equation. Forklifts should be kept in top operating order. The importance of keeping a component such as brakes in good condition is obvious, but any mechanical malfunction, for example an irregular lift movement, will be distracting for an operator who should be concentrating on his job and watching for foot traffic. Forklifts need to be operated within their safe operating guidelines. An overloaded forklift which has to stop or swerve suddenly for a pedestrian who suddenly appears out of a blind spot stands a chance of turning over, perhaps injuring both parties. Loads should be secured for the same reason. Once in motion, the driver has additional responsibilities to ensure pedestrian safety. All facility speed limits need to be followed. Conditions such as carrying a load, rounding a corner, or approaching foot traffic warrant an additional reduction in speed. While it is acknowledged that a loaded forklift may have blind spots, it is the driver's responsibility to constantly watch for foot traffic. This is particularly true when reversing or making sudden direction changes. The driver of a forklift should always yield the right-of-way to a pedestrian. A responsible driver should operate in a way which assures complete control over the movements of the vehicle and guarantee his or her ability to safely stop at any time. Drivers should show extra care around designated walkways. Walkways should also be kept clear of material which might force a pedestrian to walk outside of the walkway. A forklift driver should never pass other lift trucks traveling in the same direction, at intersections, blind spots, or other locations unless signaled to do so. The pedestrian is the second important part of the pedestrian safety equation. There are several behaviors which, if followed, can prevent serious accidents. If you are in an area with operating forklifts, assume you will not be seen. No matter what reason you have to be in the area, your number one job is to not get hurt. Be aware that forklift drivers have physical blind spots which prevent them from seeing pedestrians at certain angles. Even if you are not in a physical blind spot and you appear in an area unexpectedly, the driver may not react to you in time to avoid a collision. Pedestrians should restrict their movements to areas designated for pedestrians as much as possible. Drivers learn to avoid designated walking areas. Pedestrians out of those areas are at a much higher risk to be hit. Forklifts steer differently from automobiles, and as a result, the rear end of the truck swings wide. Forklifts maneuvering while loading can move abruptly in unexpected directions. In the constricted areas in which forklifts often operate, you may find yourself pinched between the truck and wall, column, or stored product. If you must be in the vicinity of a forklift, establish eye contact with the driver. If he or she acknowledges your presence, then you will both be working to avoid an accident. This is particularly important if you need to cross in the path of a forklift. Although pedestrians have the right-of-way, the safe thing to do is assume that a forklift driver does not see you and act accordingly. The considerate pedestrian will not insist on his or her right-of-way, but will extend the courtesy of unobstructed passage to vehicles that are larger and less easy to maneuver. Pedestrians should give loaded forklifts an extra wide operating area. A loaded forklift challenges its operator with less visibility, stability, braking capability, and maneuverability than an unloaded one. That reduction in controllability means that a pedestrian has to stay farther away and be more vigilant to neutralize the increased risk. Another reason to stay clear of a loaded forklift is that most forklift loads are unsecured. This creates the possibility that a sudden stop or abrupt avoidance maneuver by the truck might dislodge part or all of its load, creating injury risk to nearby pedestrians. Pedestrians should be attentive to warnings and horns from approaching vehicles. The horn is the operator's warning that he or she is about to enter a space where they cannot see well. Stand clear and make way for the lift when the horn is sounded. Pedestrians should never ride on a forklift or make themselves passengers on any work vehicle. Forklifts are designed for use only by a trained operator. There will always be mobile equipment and pedestrians in close proximity in the commercial workspace. Accidents can be minimized if all the parties involved constantly strive to be aware of the risks involved and work together to follow the proper safety guidelines.